This podcast is not suitable for children or those who are easily disturbed. Spoiler warning for whatever is in the title of this episode.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share and subscribe. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/the Horror of Babylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that The Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible and all other major podcast apps.
Welcome to episode 89 of The Horror of Babylon, where we discuss The Exorcist. I am Ryan, and with me as always is Daniel. Say hi, Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
And thank you to our patrons, Abigail the First, Breaker of Chains, Mother of Dragons, and
Logan, the Full Metal Patron.
And thank you to Ben the Fourth,
Patron of Hope.
Hope! I hope he hears this. And, of course, a big thanks to Horsemen Comics and Gaming, which you can visit at the Morgantown Mall in Morgantown, West Virginia, the Mall at Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, or Ronald III Grampus of Christmas has a little cart that he pushes around on the Georgetown University campus in Washington, D.C., where he just sells Richie Rich and Betty Boop and comics and bubblegum, like the hard, like really hard pink sticks of bubblegum that break your teeth. Trigger warning. Again, all of it. It's all there. There is nothing in this that it's all there. They don't kill a dog, I guess. So if that's your limit, then you're safe. It's all there. I was telling Daniel earlier, I just started reading Legion, and I'm like, I wonder if we're finally going to get something where they don't murder or rape a child.
I didn't want to tell you.
In the very first, spoiler alert for Legion, in the very first chapter, they're investigating a 12-year-old boy who was crucified. So, fun times.
Nails driven into his head.
Yeah, it's lovely. Okay, our history with The Exorcist. You're up.
I watched it as a kid, and it terrified me, and then they re-released it in theaters, and it terrified me again.
Ooh, that'd be sweet.
Yeah, it was pretty great.
Yeah.
I can't remember, for the love of God, I cannot remember when I first heard of The Exorcist, but it was one, I've told stories like this before, but it was another one of those movies that, like, I think I told this story with, like, Hellraiser, where I was mostly into slashers, and, you start, like, going to the horror section and getting different horror, and, you've watched The Exorcist, and it's unlike anything like that.
No. Yeah.
It's a very different type of horror movie.
Yes. Many have tried to replicate it since, and few have succeeded. Lots of exorcism movies out there, but...
Which I think the main thing that they get wrong is they focus on the exorcism.
Yeah.
And not the characters in the story.
Yeah.
Is usually where those other movies fall apart, or don't. So I like a lot of them, but where they don't match The Exorcist.
Yeah. And probably there won't be one that ever will.
Yeah.
I saw it also as a kid, 10, 12, 13, somewhere around there. I don't remember when. It scared me absolutely shitless. Probably the only things that scared me more were Pet Sematary and Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
We really need to do that.
Yeah. Maybe that'll be Ron. The Texas Chainsaw-a-thon.
That'll be another really fun one where I get to go, hey, I like one of these movies.
I've only seen two. I've seen the original and the reboot or the remake, and I thought it was okay.
I'm thinking of taking that Leatherface plush with me to Texas.
Do it.
Yeah, just taking pictures with it everywhere I go.
You absolutely should do that. That's a great idea. That'd be like an Instagram thing that people do. Texas with Texas, or Texas with Leatherface.
Maybe I'll do a post like that tonight, getting ready, because the Texas Chainsaw Massacre also just had its 25th anniversary, and the game just released.
That's sweet. And that's like the Friday the 13th game, right?
Yeah.
We should play that.
It's been on the list. I was thinking of buying us copies.
I saw it, scared the shit out of me. At some point I saw The Exorcist 2 and Exorcist 3. I literally remember nothing about Exorcist 2, and I remember liking Exorcist 3, but nothing other than like some parts in a mental asylum. I really remember none of it.
Exorcist 3 is one of my favorite horror movies.
I remember liking it.
Yeah.
And then I did see The Exorcist the beginning when it came out in theaters, and I remember liking that too, and buying the DVD and watching it once.
I also went and saw that in theaters.
But then, like, aside from watching The Exorcist one other time as an adult with you and some other people, and then reading the book, like, it's not like a franchise that I've gone back to again and again. Like,
It's not Year of the Ring.
No. Well, I like it a lot.
Yeah.
But it's just not like something that I like put on all the time.
It's not your comfort movie.
No. Not. Absolutely.
I want to meet the person who this is their comfort movie.
I mean, like, there are a couple horror movies that are comfort movies for me, so it's not... But this one is just, like, particularly intense.
The vampire's a pure myth, superstition. I may be able to bring you proof that the superstition of yesterday can become the scientific reality of today.
Background. This film is based on the 1971 novel The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty, and this shocked me. It was released on December 26th, 1973, the day after Christmas.
Yeah. When else would you release it?
Halloween? This summer? I mean, like, spoiler, it made a shit ton of money. So, like, everybody's like, Merry Christmas, let's go see The Exorcist.
I don't know what it is about. I guess it's because people aren't, like, you got your Christmas break. Mm-hmm. But, like, there's, like, a slot between, like, December, I think it's, like, 18th and January 1st, which is considered one of, like, the most primo slots for making money. And how Aquaman 2 made $1 billion is because it got one of those slots.
Yeah, they always tend to release Star Wars movies in that period. They released all the Harry Potter movies either then or, like, Thanksgiving. Like, totally makes sense. It's just... It seems weird. We opened our Christmas presents. Let's go watch The Exorcist. The screenplay is written by the author, and the film is directed by William Friedkin, who has a huge list of credits.
Yep.
But not a lot of horror. Some other movies that he's done, The French Connection, The Guardian, The Hunted. For, like, horror and horror-adjacent things, he did a couple episodes of Tales of the Crypt, and he did a segment on an episode of Twilight Zone, but not one of those, like, horror-specific directors like Romero or Carpenter.
Did you do any research on some of the stuff he did as a director for this movie?
No.
He would fire guns to make people jump.
Yeah, you've told me that before.
The scene where Chris falls backwards, like, against the door, she was yanked by a rope. And they did a bunch of takes, and he's like, you're not yanking her hard enough. And so he takes the rope, or he has someone, like, really, like, super yank it, and she's screaming like that because she's actually hurt. And he just kept it in the movie.
I read that the lady who did the voice of the demon, he strapped her into a chair so that she would actually sound like she was tied, because she was tied down.
He's very, I guess what you would call him, like, Kubrick-esque with his intensity when it comes to directing.
Which, it created a good movie, but, like, and sometimes you gotta think, like, is that worth, like, torturing people? I don't know. Like,
I don't know. I like the movie I got.
Yeah.
But...
The same thing with The Shining, and...
I guess... my only thing would be, as long as people are aware of his reputation and they still sign on.
I mean, yeah, if it's consensual.
Like, if it's not a surprise to anybody that he's going to do some super fucked up shit.
Yeah, but if he's, like, you know, behind the cameras, hey, you go along with this, or I'll make sure you never work again.
Yeah. And I don't know I don't have the answer to that. But that's some of the stuff that I'm aware of off the top of my head.
It had a budget of $12 million and made $428.2 million.
Yep.
Oh my God. That's a whole lot of money.
Yeah, it is a whole... It's the reason people keep trying to replicate it.
And that's that. Another story in the classic, infallible 3-act structure. Good enough for Aristotle, good enough for The Simpsons.
Mr. Sislak, I have a feeling there's going to be one more act to this story.
Well, I'm not hanging around for that. 4 acts.
So moving to structure and themes. Which I didn't finish writing this. But that's okay. Is this film a good adaptation of the novel?
This might be one of the best adaptations we've covered.
I think it's possibly the best film adaptation of a horror novel I've ever seen. Possibly.
The writer of the book doing the screenplay probably helped with that, and he also worked there's interviews with him and the director together.
Mm-hmm. But it's not just that they had the author write the screenplay, because I've seen many movies where Stephen King has done it and it doesn't always work out. But he did it really, really well.
Yeah. And it also, there are sometimes whenever you don't get the same vibe whenever something's translated to screen. This movie makes me feel a lot of the same ways that reading the book does.
In some way, yes, it does. But some things are more intense than they are in the book because you have a visual aspect to it, which we'll get into. It manages to tell the same story with being very minimalist in what it leaves out. Mm-hmm. And I like the things that are left out from the novel, but it tells the story in a way that you don't really miss those things. So, for instance...
Kinderman talking for 5 pages.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Kinderman is a lot more bearable in this. They also completely excise the subplot of Carl and Willie's daughter, which I do like that subplot in the book, but I do think it would have dragged in the movie.
I think it would have bloated the movie.
Mm-hmm. But they still managed to include all 3 of those characters in the story. And they still have the subplot of Burke's death and Kinderman investigating it, and his first interview with Karis and his first interview with Chris. And it's still, you get a sense of, who the character is without just having to listen to him talk for 20 minutes. Just yak, 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 yak. There's a lot less of the medical and psychological investigation of Reagan's condition than there is compared to the novel, but there's enough of it that...
It's sort of like how a lot of the investigation was excised from Ring adaptations.
Yeah. But it's still... There's enough of it that you still appreciate it. Mm-hmm. And to me... I'll talk more about this in Scary Shit, but the horror doesn't really seep into that aspect of the novel, but they do a lot more horror-esque things with Reagan and the X-ray machines and all the stuff that's happening to her.
When you're hearing about it in the novel, you don't really get a sense for how invasive a lot of these tests actually are.
But when you actually see a little girl getting, injected in the neck, it's...
You're gonna feel a little pinch.
Oh,
yeah. I would have told that doctor. I would have told that doctor to fuck right off. I'm not even possessed, but
she probably did.
Pinches a lot more than your dick will.
My only kind of nitpicky thing here is I don't feel like there's much of a transition from happy, healthy Reagan to she's sick. She's totally perfectly fine, and then they're in the doctor's office getting checked out. And I had a brief moment of confusion. Why is she in the doctor? Oh, it's her birthday. Maybe this is just her well child checkup. Mm-hmm. But then, when the doctor is talking with Chris in his office, she's making it sound like Reagan was already showing symptoms.
Like, we don't have those scenes of her just kind of standing around and being lethargic and kind of
like
confused.
why Chris initially took her in.
I'm not sure we got any of that, or not enough for it to like stick in my brain.
So it was just a really quick jump, which I didn't like, but ultimately doesn't really affect the enjoyment of the movie very much.
Yeah.
What about themes? What are your thoughts on like themes that carry over from the book?
Religion is the biggest one.
No, there's none of that.
Yeah, good versus evil. Questions of God and his role in just everyday life. Those are the big ones. You also have motherhood is a big theme. I'm not sure if we touched on like forgiveness, especially like when it comes to like forgiveness of oneself. That's a big like Karis theme arc.
Yeah, I don't think we talked about that much in the book, but yeah, obviously Karis and his mother. Chris, in terms of like the divorce, she feels guilty about the divorce and how that might be what's causing this issue with Reagan. Psychology and the medical part of it is also in there.
And how you always fall back on faith when everything else fails.
Yeah, we tried the medical route, we tried the psychology route, and now you're going to a priest. You're telling me I should take my daughter to a witch doctor? Actually, I said a Catholic priest, and I don't think they would appreciate you calling them witch doctors, ma'am.
I've already taken her to every goddamn psychologist on the planet. Now they send me to you, and you're sending me back to them.
Why won't someone help me? Why can't somebody just help me?
Yeah.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Let's use that to jump into characters and talk about Ellen Burstyn, who played Chris McNeil. So the thing that jumped out to me, first, she was great. But the thing that jumped out to me about Chris as compared to the book is she seemed a lot more frantic, and there were more outbursts. Like, she had some outbursts against like Sharon and her servants in the novel, but she mostly seemed to keep it together. I imagine they intentionally made her break down a few more times in the movie to make it a little more intense.
It's because the director kept firing guns at her.
Yeah. No, I'm sure he fired in the air. I hope.
I think he fired at the ground, if I'm remembering correctly.
That's so stupid.
Firing in the air is also really dumb.
Well, I just think firing a gun is dumb.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you shouldn't fire a gun anywhere. It was probably blanks, but still. But still.
Okay. What do you think of Chris and her adaptation on the screen?
Fantastic. One of the best from page to screen adaptations that there. That's probably my opinion for almost all of these people.
Yeah, generally a very strong cast, very strong performances, very strong adaptations of the characters.
Is she reprising her role as Chris in The Exorcist Believer?
Yes, she is in the new one.
Okay. That might still get me to go see it.
I mean,
we're going anyway, but
I'm going because we're doing an episode, but I'm not.
I wasn't a fan of the trailer.
Yeah, I wasn't either, but that doesn't mean that the movie couldn't be bad. And actually, I was under the impression for a long time that this was a remake, not a...
It was originally shopped around as a remake, then a reboot. Now it's kind of an in-between reboot.
Yeah, it seems like it's like a far in the future kind of sequel.
Yeah, they're doing that same thing that like the Halloween movies did, and this guy's the dude who directed the new Halloween trilogy, where nothing but the first movie happened.
Okay.
So.
Alright, that's fine.
Yep.
I haven't seen her in a lot of stuff.
Me either.
But I was looking at her IMDb page, and I thought it was kind of funny that she plays Barbara Bush in Oliver Stone's W.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't seen that movie.
Me either.
I've always meant to watch it.
It's on the list.
Yeah, but it's just she played Barbara Bush. Like I can kind of see it.
I remember thinking that trailer was really funny.
I don't think I've ever even seen the trailer.
There's a scene where George Bush is just like kind of like looking at the screen and he starts screaming. But I imagine all the shit that was going on during his presidency, and I would probably scream at some point.
If I were George W. Bush, just like every time I had a disagreement with my vice president, I would just be like, don't be a Dick Cheney.
I hope that happened at least once.
I'm sure that has happened to him. Probably after he shot that dude he was hunting with.
He was like, motherfucker.
Remember that time our vice president shot someone?
Yeah, in the face.
Oh, don't go hunting with Dick Cheney. Alright, let's keep going. Jason Miller as Father Karras. This was his first film.
I don't know if he's my favorite in this movie, but he's so good.
He might be my favorite. There's one other who may be it. I'm shocked that this was his first movie, and he has done a lot of movies since, but he didn't really go on to have like a big career. And also, like, it's weird to me that he has like 4th or 5th billing after like all the other actors, when to me, like, Chris and Father Karras are like the two protagonists.
Yeah.
But I guess...
But when it's your first movie,
yeah,
it's really hard to get even second billing on a movie.
Yeah, that's true. But, I mean, he is fantastic. It's an amazing adaptation of the character. They really managed to get, like, every aspect of Father Karras from the novel onto the screen.
Can you help an old altar boy out? I'm a Catholic.
I'm a Catholic. So you have to help me, Father. I did think it was interesting that they left out that he actually gives that guy money. Because in the book, he gives him money. And in the movie, they just kind of cut away. So is that supposed to make you think that he didn't help that guy?
I think it was meant to make it kind of ambiguous, which I sort of like.
Yeah.
Like, in the book, it's kind of neat because it's like, oh, that was my cab money.
Yeah, he gives away his cab money, so he has to walk. Yeah.
And he's like, he's like lamenting priesthood, and that's like his whole character arc.
His vow of poverty.
Where this is more like, it's ambiguous just how into it he actually is.
And it does... There is that line from his uncle that I believe is not in the book, where his uncle is blaming him for what's happening to his mother, and he's like, if you weren't a priest, you would be a famous psychologist by now, and she would be living in a mansion. Yeah. And we talked about that in the book episode, where he is a doctor, so he, one of the better off professions, but he's also a priest with a vow of poverty, so he can't make any money.
A very similar line is in the book, but his mom says it to him.
Yeah.
So, thanks, Mom.
And talking about his mother, I think they did a little bit to ratchet up the intensity with the subplot with his mom. Like actually seeing the apartment she lives in, or the street that she lives on, seeing her in the hospital that she's in, and where Father Karras goes in to see her, and all the other patients are like grabbing at him like they're fucking dead elves coming out of the dead marshes, grabbing at Frodo and Sam. And
I just love how you always have a good, you always have a Lord of the Rings reference no matter what we review.
Yeah, always. I don't know, what else about Father Karras?
This actor is very good at that, like, intensity when it comes to, like, the interviews with quote unquote the devil. And just like, I've talked about this before, but facial acting. Very important.
Emoting.
Yeah, emoting. He is so good at it. And a lot of that also comes from, like, behind the scenes stuff. I know, like, when he gets thrown up on, it wasn't supposed to hit him in the face. So his reaction to that's also just real.
Was it him that got it in the mouth? Like, his mouth is open and goes in it? Yeah,
it was supposed to just hit his shirt.
Ugh.
And they were just like, oh no, that looks great. But he was a professional. It's like Heath Ledger when the hospital didn't blow up right away and he just keeps acting. I'm like, when you know some of that stuff and then you rewatch these movies, you get to appreciate that.
I also like his relationship with Father Dyer, which you don't get a lot of, but you get enough of it that it helps with the ending.
That you can still feel it.
Yeah.
I love when he's taking the shoes off and dressing them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a professional shoe thief.
Are you stealing my shoes? No, I read the creases on your foot to tell fortunes.
Yeah.
The only thing, like, I could remember from the novel that I missed, which was probably better left out, was the lemon drop kid. thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to counsel children, and now I'm addicted to lemon drops.
It's like a line right out of Lolita.
Run, Reagan. Father Dyer is coming. He's coming to get you, Reagan. That's gross.
Kindly undo these straps.
No. All right, so the title character, Father Marin, played by Max von Sydow, who a huge character actor. You may know him as
Emperor
Ming from Flash Gordon. Flash! He'll save or something. He is also Lor Santeca in The Force Awakens. He played Sigmund Freud in The Young Adventures of Indiana Jones. And various other things. The original Dune, Judge Dredd, Shutter Island. He had a cameo in the new Wolfman movie that was cut from the theatrical release and only included in the director's cut.
I've only seen the theatrical release.
I haven't seen any of it. I just read that on his page.
IMDb.
Yeah. So great character actor. I'm imagining this has got to be his most famous role and the thing he's known for the most. But
I mean, is this anyone involved's least famous thing?
No.
Yeah, I think this is everyone's most. If you're in The Exorcist, it's your most famous thing.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah,
I love the whole just like first 15 minutes where there's like almost no dialogue.
It's just him in the desert.
Yeah. And I remember like the second time I watched this movie where I was like, I don't remember any of this. And it's just like, wow, like what is this? What's happening? And oh my God, that statue has a giant penis.
What always gets me about that scene is the dogs fighting in the distance.
Yeah.
Which is a completely natural thing, but it feels so out of place, even though I'm sure it's super in place in like wild Iraq or wild parts of Iraq. Every time I hear those dogs fighting, I jump.
Yeah, it is spooky.
Yeah.
For sure. But again, he's the title character, and Father Karras is not the Exorcist, and he's only on screen for, I don't know, like 25 minutes of the full 2-hour movie, something like that.
They translated his interactions with people super well.
Sometimes when you adapt a novel to a movie and you just use the straight dialogue from the book, sometimes it goes over poorly. And William Peter Blatty just exercises like whole pieces of dialogue from the novel and just puts it in the movie, and it all sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's what they said.
Yeah. And
what's her middle name? Teresa. That's such a lovely middle name. I fucking love the way he talks to people.
I wish they would have had the little bit where he's just like so fucking hung up on Damien. It's just like, it's such a good name. What I could do with a name like Damien.
I was named after a ship. You know how much that sucks?
It fucking sucks. It's a boat. My name was a boat. I'm Gary motherfucking Oak.
The scene when he dies is slightly different because Reagan is sort of loose.
I think I read that there were 2 different endings.
That's possible.
Okay, so director's cut ending. At the end of the 2000 re-release, when Chris gives Karras' medallion to Dyer, Dyer returns it and suggests that she keeps it. After she and Reagan drive away, Dyer pauses at the top of the stone steps before walking away and coming across Kinderman, who narrowly misses Chris.
Yeah, so that's what we watched.
Okay, so that's the director's cut. What's the original ending, though?
I'm not sure.
I have no idea. The McNeils prepare to leave, and Father Dyer says goodbye. Despite having no memory of her ordeal, Reagan is moved by the sight of Dyer's clerical collar to kiss him on the cheek. As the McNeils leave, Chris gives Dyer the medallion found in Megan's room.
I guess he just doesn't talk to Kinderman.
Which I'm fine with.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that is exactly how the book ends, though. Like, it...
Yeah.
It was the whole time I was watching it on this watch, I was just basically shocked how true it is to the novel. I haven't seen this movie in like 10 years, and I never rewatched it after reading the book the first time.
And we've covered so many adaptations that we're sort of used to things.
Yeah, just being so shitty. But this one...
I was going to say different, but...
Yeah. No, shitty.
Yeah.
But no, I just like it's super faithful to the book. And it's super entertaining, It's not one of those ones like Salem's Lot 2004, which is much more faithful to the novel, but not as entertaining probably, or like the Shining miniseries, which is much more faithful an adaptation than the Shining movie, but you know. I just can't get over how good it is. What do you think of Kinderman, played by Lee J. Cobb?
Of everyone we've talked about, he's the weakest. But I think some of that's from some of the parts that they excised, which a lot of that's probably for time, like when he shows up at Carl's Daughters.
Yeah.
And showing, because like the whole shtick for Kinderman is he plays himself to be kind of a bumbling, kind of, this is all perfectly procedure, I just want to get on with my day, but he's really investigating the whole time.
They do that a little bit,
but it's not played up nearly as much.
Yeah.
You don't get those like big scenes where he shows up at Carl's Daughters, or where he pulls Carl aside and is like, "You have the right to remain silent. Here's all the lies you told. I just caught you in another lie. Are you gonna tell me the truth yet?"
I was at the movies.
Yeah. I was at the movies.
I am Swiss.
Yeah.
Nazi bastard. And I agree with you, but I think making all those changes was probably appropriate for a film adaptation.
It does make the movie pace so much better.
And also, I just realized, maybe it's not intentional, because I think it's the word we typically prefer to use, but when we are saying they removed something from the film that was in the novel, we keep saying excised.
Yeah.
As in,
the power of Christ compels you to remove this subplot.
That line, not in the book, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think they had like a very specific prayer that they kept saying.
I remember when I was rereading the book, I was looking for that line because, it's one of our sound cues or our section headers in the show, so I hear it all the time.
I think it was just the prayer again and again.
Yeah.
There was like sprinkling of holy water, but it wasn't with like like this big bombastic "I cast you out."
Yeah. The power of Christ compels you. It was, as I was watching that scene, I was able to pick out the exact clip that we use in the show. I was just like, no. Yes, that's it.
It's the one.
That's the one.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go to probably our most important character, Linda Blair and Mercedes McCambridge play Regan McNeil and the Demon. So real quick before we go into this, just a little quick thing that I read on Wikipedia, because as I was watching it, I was like, surely that's not Linda Blair saying that voice. So I actually Googled it. Mercedes McCambridge does do the voice of the Demon, the dubbed voice of Pazuzu. To sound as disturbing as possible, McCambridge insisted on swallowing raw eggs, chain smoking, and drinking whiskey to make her voice harsh and her performance aggressive. Director William Friedkin also arranged for her to be bound to a chair during recordings so that the demon seemed to be struggling against its restraints. Friedkin claimed that she initially requested no credit for the film, fearing it would take away from the attention of Blair's performance, but later complained about her absence of credit during the film's premiere. Her dispute with Friedkin and Warner Brothers over her exclusion ended with the help of the Screen Actors Guild. She was properly credited for her vocal work in the film. When you look up the cast list on IMDb, she's not on the first page listed. You have to click like full cast and scroll to the bottom to find her.
I would like to do more research on that at some point. But it sounds to me like if you at first are insisting on not being credited and then get mad that you're not credited, that seems weird to me.
Well, or the other possibility is that the director was lying. That he wanted her to not be credited. Like George Lucas wanted to not credit Anthony Daniels and Kenny Baker as C-3PO and R2-D2.
Yeah,
and that didn't work out. But that's a thing that directors have tried to do.
So I guess that is possible.
And apparently I also read on her Wikipedia page that Linda Blair was being considered for Golden Globes and Oscars for her performance as Regan McNeil until it came out that she didn't do the voice, and then she was not considered for those awards anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not taking a position one way or
That's
the other,
why I
but-
said I would like to do more research on it, because I'm behind the scenes stuff kind of fascinates me, especially when it gets into like drama.
Yeah. No, I agree. Okay. So, we're kind of burying the lead here. Daniel, critic of children actors, how does Linda Blair stack up for you?
Number one.
Yeah,
It's not even... She is actually the reason I'm so critical of child actors.
because she's so good.
Because she's so good. So I know they exist.
What I wanted to do for the pre-show for this episode was a top 5 child actor performances.
Linda Blair's my number one.
Yeah, and because I'm thinking if she's not my number one, she's very, very close.
She's at least top 5.
I'd have to like go back through like, you know, all those like movies and
But again, she's very good at emoting. She's very good at doing sweet little girl, but also like screaming and wailing, but not like annoying screaming and wailing. Like this child is, you're trying to give a possessed kid a shot.
she's also a very physical actor. She doesn't do all the she does a lot of the stunts in this movie, but not all of them. But a lot of the like throwing herself around is shit that she did. She really amazing, and she, if you look at her IMDb page, she has a lot of credits and has gone to do a lot of work, but has not had like a meteoric career like you may have thought if you saw this movie in theaters in 1973. I would have been like, watch out for that girl, she's gonna be something.
It just happens to a lot of child actors, unfortunately.
Which sucks. Not everybody can be Drew Barrymore.
Yeah. In fact, I would say this is probably more common, is for them to like peak as a kid and then, but people only like them as their child performance.
Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, and it's super unfortunate. It's one of the things that I really don't like about Hollywood is how it eats children.
Yeah, it's like we've talked about it before. Like it's almost better to just like not have children in movies anymore. I read recently that Macaulay Culkin's like 45. That makes me feel so old.
Yeah. One of my favorite reviewers online, Red Letter Media, they do a lot of movie reviews. He's been a guest star on there several times.
That's cool.
But he just kind of shows up and they don't really acknowledge who he is, which is super funny to me.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Kind of like Kinderman, like interviewing Chris McNeil and pretending she's a regular lady, and then at the end, oh, I'm so sorry that your daughter's like super sick. Hey, can I have an autograph for my daughter? Yeah, what's her name? I lied.
It's for me.
It's for me. That's fun.
I forgot to bring this up during the book review. Every time I reread the book, I always remember that scene, but for some reason I always believe it's like part of like the evidence he's collecting. But then it's really just he wants the autograph. Yeah.
Like he needs like a handwriting sample or something.
Like to compare to like the notes left at the the church is the desecrations. The desecrations, thank you.
Yeah.
That's what I always imagine it's for, but I don't believe it's ever brought up other than he just wants the autograph.
I think Madonna saw this movie in 1973 and decided that the desecrations with like the giant pointy tits, that's how she needed to like design her like costume and her
I 100% believe. I'm not even kidding. I think that's where she got it.
Yeah, because it looks exactly the same except for the giant penis.
Those desecrations always catch me off guard too, not in like a scary way, but just like a like, I mean, how else would you desecrate a church?
I'll kill you all! I'll drive you crazy, and I'll kill you all! I'm every nightmare you ever had. I am your worst dream come true. I'm everything you ever were afraid of.
Let's jump to scary shit. I'm going to ask the typical question and let you talk for a minute, and then I have a little bit of a thing. But I'm going to go ahead and say, is this movie scary?
This movie still terrifies me for a bunch of different reasons. You got like the horrible shit that happens to kids, which is like always concerning. But then there's stuff that they do in the movie that you can't really do in a book that I think is super infecting. effective. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Which is funny because that's how the Red Letter Media guy talks whenever he reviews shit. And I'm going to bring him up again. It's things that he has this quote where he goes, "You may not have noticed it, but your brain did." And it's little shit like whenever Chris goes upstairs to check on Reagan and then turns off the lights and leaves, the Pazuzu statue's in her room, but you can't really see it unless you adjust the light. Like if you alter the light on the screen just right, it's just visible enough. Whenever she's walking around through the house, Pazuzu's face is superimposed on things, but they don't acknowledge it. There's no like noise or jump scare. It's just there, and it's pervasive throughout the entire movie.
I do think this movie is scary, but not for the reason that most people probably do. When I was a kid, everything about it scared the shit out of me. As an adult, I didn't find Reagan to really be scary at all. It was freaky and it was creepy. And I think it's scary in terms of like its tone and in terms of like what happens to Reagan and all the medical testing.
It has a very dreadful tone.
But there is one thing. I think I'm going to start with the story. So last Halloween, we bought a bunch of horror stickers to give away. And as I sorted them all out by franchise, and I left a pile of ones that I couldn't identify for you to go through. And the face in this movie, there was a sticker of that, and you picked it up and said, "Oh, this is from The Exorcist." And I said, "Okay," but in my head I was like, "That's not from The Exorcist." I've seen The Exorcist twice. I don't remember that at all. And I forgot about it until I was watching this movie today. And I think this movie has like two of the best jump scares of all time.
Yeah, they're up there.
That's the face just comes up and literally like I was just like
licks its lips.
Yeah,
it's not even it doesn't even come with a noise.
No, there's no noise. It's just there. And I had this movie on while I was working, so I very easily could have been looking at my computer screen and missed it, but I didn't.
The stuff that I was talking about, like how that face is superimposed in walls, like Chris is just walking by, but they don't ever acknowledge it.
It's scary. And
it's a lot of those like super silent scenes. And that's why I think the movie sometimes gets under people's skin. Again, you didn't notice it, but you can tell something's off. Like, because human brains are like, we've evolved to be able to pick out faces. It's why we see faces in clouds and everything else. So your brain is noticing danger, but you're not like registering where it's coming from. I think it's very smart, and that's like that's a editing thing, that's a director thing, and that's something that you can't really get across in a book.
No, not at all.
And that's
or at least not effectively.
And that's one of the things I want to praise this movie for, is having shit like that. One of my favorite scenes is probably a little over the top, and it still terrifies me, is when Reagan crab walks backwards and then the blood just comes out of her mouth. And that's what we got instead of her like doing the crab walk and licking people.
So I like that in the book and in the movie. I think I like it in the book a little bit more.
I've seen like the test screenings, like, and we talked about this, how in the book it sounds terrifying, and I'd probably kick a kid if that happened.
Yep.
But it kind of looks goofy on screen.
Yeah.
But the crab walk down the stairs in the blood, I'm like, well, that looks great on screen.
Yeah, I think they made the right decision.
Yeah.
I think it's probably scarier in the book, but the freakier in the movie.
Yeah.
Because I think, in the movie they try to be outrageous.
Yeah.
And some of it's scary and some of it's not. Unless you're a 10-year-old kid, then all of it's scary. Okay. And we already mentioned this, but it's something I wanted to say, so I'm just going to say it. Like, the medical testing, the x-rays and the injections. You can describe that in a book, and it can be scary, but seeing it is so much worse.
When we talked about Last Voyage of the Demeter, when I was like cringing from the blood transfusion, same thing. I'm like, no.
I'm okay with needles, but not in my neck.
Not in my neck. Especially not. Could you imagine getting a spinal tap? No. Oh my god.
No.
Do you know how they do bone marrow transfusions?
Yes.
Okay, well then, I've also seen those, and I about passed out just from watching.
Like, I swear they used, like, beat-up machinery on purpose to make it look, like, more medieval.
Yeah.
Oh my god. It's so bad. What do you think of that scene where like Marin's and Karis are like collapsed, and she's tied down to the bed. But then they look over, and then the Pazuzu statue like comes out of a beam of light, and you see like Reagan like worshipping it, and you see like her naked like form through the pajamas. That was,
I think that's
a choice.
I think it's a very movie choice, where the book is a lot more kind of ambiguous. Mm-hmm. Where, and I am not familiar with all of their controversies, but I know Blatty and Friedkin like had some disagreement on how to handle certain things. Mm-hmm. That does strike me as mostly I need the general audience to get what's happening.
We didn't mention it in background, but Blatty was also a producer on this film, in addition to writing the screenplay.
I'd be remiss if we didn't mention, I want to get your thoughts on it, the famous head turning around scene.
I like it. It's not scary to me as an adult.
I think it's not scary to me anymore because I've seen so much other shit, and I've seen this movie so many times. But when I first saw it as a kid...
Oh, it scared the hell out of me. Everything about this movie scared the hell out of me as a kid. I wish I could go back and rewatch some of these horror movies as if I was a kid watching them for the first time.
Like completely removed.
Yeah. Or just any movie.
Yeah.
Really.
We talked about that during the pre-show with Digimon.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
I don't really have a spot to put this in, so I'm just going to say it now. I had so many false memories about this movie. So, the face is one. We talked in the book episode where I thought that Marin survived and only Karis died, but no, Marin also dies in this. The score. I thought that they used that score during the scene where Marin gets out of the cab and under the light post, but they don't.
No, they just it's way earlier.
They only use it twice. Once when Chris is walking home, and then the other time is just for like half a second, like right at the beginning of the end credits.
I think I can tell you where that memory comes from. Is a lot of the advertisements they used to do for this movie, especially like when it came to like re-releases, is they would show that like famous under the light post scene, and they would play that music.
I don't think I've ever seen an advertisement for this film, but what I think it comes from for me is from parodies, because they always do it in parodies. I don't think I've ever even seen the trailer for this movie. Other false memories, like I didn't remember Carl, Willie, and Sharon. I didn't remember that they were characters at all. As I was reading the book, I was like, these characters aren't in the movie.
Yeah, they don't play nearly as big of a role in the movie, and I think that's to the movie's benefit, because it makes the movie paced super well.
Yeah.
Because I could imagine them adding the subplots back in and the movie dragging.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I think it was the right choice.
Kiss me, fat boy!
Reagan is really insistent that Jesus fuck her. How would you have Jesus fuck you?
After he buys me dinner, because I am not a whore.
Well, I would want him to treat me like a princess.
Okay.
And I'd want a little tiara made of thorns.
I hope Catholics aren't right.
The other thing I thought of is I for sure wanted him to tie me up. Like, maybe like tie one arm over here and tie one arm over here.
Are we sure we're not describing a black mass? No, what I want is for him to get me pregnant for a secret society to form around our children for generations.
Just go ahead and describe the plot of the Da Vinci Code for 5 minutes.
Yeah. I think that's one of my favorite things you've ever done.
Yeah. I really like Angels and Demons.
It's so good. You still haven't read Deception Point, have you?
Or Digital Fortress.
Oh, okay.
Which is funny because I've read the third Robert Langdon one, the one that takes place in DC. I've read that one 3 times.
Nice.
And Angels and Demons I've read twice, but I've read them all at least twice, except for the newest Robert Langdon book, which I wasn't crazy about.
Makes sense.
But that's
different different thing, right?
Yep. We could probably get away with doing one of those books at some point.
Yeah, and it might not be bad for like a bonus buffer, especially because it takes like a day to read them.
Yeah.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
Power of Christ compels you. I mean, basically, we've been talking about the power of Christ.
Like the entire episode.
I do have a couple things. Okay, another false memory I had about this movie was I thought that it was explicit in the movie that the demon is the Christian devil, like the devil. But no, it's the same as it is in the book, where the demon only claims to be the devil one time.
And then it's like, oh, just a minor devil.
But and I think that it's part of that false memory also comes from like the reputation the movie has, because I think most people watch this and then assume
also parodies.
Yeah, assume that the demon is the devil, and also in parodies it's usually
the devil.
Yeah.
Now kindly undo these straps. I love that scene so fucking much.
It is great. I love that, but I also love that it's not. It's more. It seems to be more of a pagan demon.
Yeah,
but it's not explicit. It doesn't tell you. I mean, and who's to say that pagan demons and Christian demons aren't the same thing, just viewed through different cultures?
Yeah, I mean, it's what we talked about that last time. It's something that the early Catholic Church did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, your gods are real. They're just actually demons.
Yeah, I mean, it's not Jupiter's birthday, it's Jesus's birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then also, like, another thing, I thought the depiction of priests and their, like, off time was, like, I don't know a lot of priests.
I think I've met one priest.
But just, like, they spend a lot of time in this movie showing you priests smoking, drinking. There's even a part where they're gambling in the dorm. Maybe they're gambling with jelly beans. I don't know. But, like,
I don't know. Still sounds like a sin to me.
Yeah. But
you show me which one of the 10 Commandments says I can't gamble with jelly beans.
But I mean, what did you think?
I've always, both in the book and the movie, like how they depict priests always kind of takes me aback. Partially because of how human they are, and I know that sounds super stupid and like naive. But sometimes there are certain professions where you forget that they're people. Mm-hmm. I sometimes think the same way about like police officers. Mm-hmm. You either think of them, depending on your political camp most of the time, as heroes or the Terminator. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times the truth is a lot more in the middle. It's a job.
Yeah, I had a lot of prejudices against, or not against, like I had a lot of prejudices about lawyers until the job that I have now, where I know like 4 or 5 lawyers that I work with on a weekly basis and have regular conversations with, and just like prior to this, be like, oh, lawyers are so smart, they go to school for so long, they got to be like total bookworms and know everything about everything. I'm like, oh, they're people, and a couple of them are kind of dumbasses. So
I kind of want to make friends with a priest just to see.
Yeah.
And also just in case.
And that's the thing, like, probably it's just that priests are human and we don't know any priests, so this just seems strange because that's not how they're supposed to act. So.
Yeah, and they're not depicted that way a lot of the time.
Yeah, in media, not
unless you're Blatty or Stephen King.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God, are you Stephen King?
No, I'm Dean Koontz.
Oh.
King and Koontz, what is your king for The Exorcist?
Okay, I'm gonna get the actress's name wrong. Not Reagan, the one that plays the demon.
Mercedes McCambridge.
Okay, so McCambridge and Blair, how they both kind of create this.
It's outstanding.
Yeah. I am hard pressed to think of a better duo performance that really convinces you of what's going on. Like,
the only one that comes to mind for me is James Earl Jones and David Prowse as Darth Vader.
Yeah, and that's probably number 2 or those are the 2.
Yeah. I mean, just like that like kind of combination doesn't happen a lot and usually it doesn't go over as well when it does.
And it pulled me into this world and convinced me, at least for 2 hours, that I was watching a little girl get possessed by a demon.
Yeah. I was gonna say The Face.
Oh yeah,
But honestly, like, my king should probably just be the same as yours, because it is the, and Father Karras is also great, and Chris is also great, like, and the score, maybe the score.
There's a lot of kings. I wouldn't fault you for any king you picked for this movie.
I want to say the score. So fuck it, I'm going to say the score. Like, well, but it's so underused in the movie, but that doesn't mean it's not a great piece of music.
Doesn't mean it's not
fuck the face. The face.
Okay,
the face.
just go with your initial gut instinct here.
All right, I had a really easy Koontz.
What's your Koontz?
Well, I want to hear yours first.
I don't have one. This movie is perfect.
I don't.
Okay.
There's one.
That's a joke, but I really do want to hear.
Go.
Okay, so my only Koontz is I would have liked at least a little bit more of the investigation aspects that we got in the book.
Yeah.
But that's because I'm coming right off of reading the book.
Yeah.
And we sat there and talked for almost 10-15 minutes just about how much that reminded us of Ring.
Yeah,
and the things we liked.
Yeah.
So that's my Koontz.
I agree. But this movie has a horrible, terrible sin.
Okay.
This movie unleashed a monster onto the populace. So we mentioned that William Peter Blatty was a producer on this film.
Uh-huh.
But there is also an executive producer.
Oh my god.
By the name of Noel Marshall, who made a butt ton of money and was able to fund his own project, a little movie called Roar.
Oh no! Are you serious?
Yeah. We talked about that in our Roar episode.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah. If not for this movie, there would be no Roar. So
I don't know if I can like this movie.
That's my Koontz.
It's right above Roar.
Noel Marshall was the executive producer, made a shit ton of money, and he put it all towards Roar.
How many lions died because of The Exorcist?
At least 3.
Okay.
All right, that's my Koontz. All right, rankings. I did rank this ahead of time, and I believe it is my number 3, only behind the It miniseries and Pet Sematary. And I think I guess if you're just looking purely at production and adaptation, it's probably better than both of those. However, I think those are just stories that I like better and have things that I specifically get off on more. But it's number 3 out of
that's pretty
74.
Good. Mine's my number 2.
And that's behind The Ring, I think.
Yep.
So, and for me, that's above Cocaine Bear and Renfield, and it's your number 2 below The Ring and above Aliens and Alien.
I think that from all technical aspects, it's probably it is a better made movie than The Ring. But,
yes, it is.
But I still love The Ring more.
Yeah, I mean,
The Ring is my comfort movie. It's what I put on when I'm depressed.
I'm so sad. I need to see a horse jump into the ocean.
Yeah.
All right, we're not here to kink shame.
You're allowed to kink shame me.
No, it's okay.
It's one of my kinks is being kink shamed by you.
I'm not going to feed your kink.
Oh, that feeds my kink.
Oh, God. It's the cycle of abuse.
Yeah.
Someone has to choose to end it. I'm choosing to end it by moving on.
Okay, I have one.
Go ahead. Yep.
Okay, especially because you have kids.
Ugh.
At what stage do you go to a priest? Like, same things happen in the movie, but like, at what stage do you finally go, Emma's possessed? I've seen this movie, and you go to church.
So, I would imagine that I would follow a similar succession of things that Chris does, and I would try to exhaust all medical and psychological reasonings before going to a spiritual. The difference between me and Chris McNeil is that if Emma got possessed and then we got an exorcism and it cured her, and not only did it cure her, but both of the fathers who performed the exorcism died to save her, then my whole family's converting to Catholicism.
That was my follow-up question.
Yeah, and it's not because technically Beck is Catholic. She's not.
It's just not practicing.
Yeah, not practicing.
I was technically baptized Catholic, so.
I was baptized Lutheran.
So.
Well, she was also confirmed. Yeah. So she had that extra step in there.
Ooh, boy.
And got her second middle name because you get a second one.
Oh, I'm going to go Catholic. I want a second middle name.
Yeah. I don't know if men do.
Oh, okay. Well, then, never mind. Oh, wait, no. I'll transition.
I might be wrong, because I'm sure my dad was confirmed, and he doesn't have a second middle name. Do men get
You can tell how much we know about Catholicism.
middle name?
We don't know if priests or people are middle names.
The second middle name would be a confirmation name added when the person receives the sacrament of confirmation, but that is not treated as a formal legal name. It is specifically a religious custom. So, my dad was raised Catholic and went to Catholic school, like with nuns from K to 12.
Hot.
So he probably has one and then just chose not to use it. Beck, actually, she uses hers.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. Okay, so that's cool. Yeah, we're going full Catholic.
Yeah.
All the way. Like,
I probably, as soon as the...
no more condoms.
As soon as the...
no more tampons. Why risk it? Sorry.
As soon as the first test showed nothing on the brain after they had the needle in their neck, I'd be like, we're doing priest and psychologist at the same time. Whoever wins gets my faith.
Yeah. I guess you could just do all three at once.
Yeah.
It's just like, fine. Just compete to save my daughter.
Yeah. And I would also... Again, like, at least the kid has to become Catholic.
Yeah.
You're at least going to Catholic school is what I would tell them.
I would too.
I'd be like...
I've already considered sending them to Catholic school. Because that's how much I think of the public schools around here.
Yeah, I mean...
at least...
From what I understand, some of the Catholic schools actually have pretty good reputation.
Yeah, they do. The local one here has a pretty good reputation. There's that whole religion thing.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so question for the listeners. How's The Exorcist rank for you among the scariest movies ever made? We have talked several times on recent episodes about, is it like the most popular, the most iconic, the scariest? It's got to be up there on all of those lists.
It's always in the conversation, and that should tell you something.
Which is probably, something we'll have to do at some point. What do you think are the top 10 most iconic horror movies of all time?
I want us to do that, and my idea for that pre-show is to have, a list pulled up so that we can compare, our own ideas.
Yeah.
And I'm also coming up with criteria on how you determine that.
Yeah, because not your favorite... But what do you think the general populace would consider the top 10 most iconic?
And I've come up with 3 stages of iconography, but I'll pitch them to you later.
Well, first you have to save a village from rats if you want to be an icon or a saint, and then you should feed the blind. You should take care of lepers.
Chase all the snakes away.
Chase all the snakes away, but that's really good for Irish ones. For further reading, if you love the movie and you've never read the book, I really, really recommend reading the book.
Yeah.
Also, read Ring by Koji Suzuki. It's crazy. How
I was so glad you brought that up. Because I was ready.
Yeah, I was not ready for how comparable I found those two novels. It was nuts.
If you like movies that just are this movie but not as good, any Exorcist movie probably. If you're only interested in this movie as the exorcism aspect, it's a whole genre now because of this movie.
Yeah, there's the Anthony Hopkins one. There's the I don't even remember their names.
They just released The Pope's Exorcist on Netflix.
Yeah, I haven't watched that one yet. And then there was also that new one that came out with the lady. I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah. You can tell that The Exorcist is the king among these for these exact reasons, that we can't just name them.
In high school, I had a period of watching bad exorcism movies, and I don't even remember most of them. Pray for the Devil. That's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah.
I haven't watched that one yet.
You should do The Taking of Deborah Morgan is a very good exorcism movie.
Deborah Logan?
Yeah, Deborah Logan.
I have it on here.
Okay.
And it's in my watch list.
Out of like ones that are actually pretty good, it's actually pretty good.
Here's my queue of movies to watch. And I'm pretty sure The Taking of... Yep, right here. The Taking of Deborah
it's actually... I think you'll actually like that movie.
The Right is the one I was...
The Right.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. So, yeah, they're
like,
fine.
Like, and so there's a genre for you. Mm-hmm. If that's, like, your favorite aspect. If you like the religious aspect. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, not that that's wrong. I mean, it is. Blatty was a very religious person, apparently, and...
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me.
No, I was looking at a list of his other books, and like some of them are like non-fiction books about like real evidence of life after death and stuff like that. Also, the fucking like rant that Kinderman goes on in the first chapter of Legion about how he cannot believe that there isn't a creator and all this, like, yeah, you can definitely see.
Wait till you hear the last rant.
Great.
It's sandwiches. There's the first rant and there's the last rant.
I am so excited. All right. That's cool. All right. Upcoming on the Horror of Babylon, our next Sunday episode is our next novel episode on September 10th. We are reviewing Legion by William Peter Blatty, which is the sequel to The Exorcist.
I'm excited. And
then our next Sunday episode on the 17th is Exorcist 2, The Heretic, which Linda Blair is back for. I've seen it. I literally remember nothing about it except for maybe thinking it wasn't that great, but nothing about it stuck in my brain.
Yeah.
And then our next two bonus episodes on Thursday, September 7th, Alien-a-thon episode 5 with Alien vs. Predator, and then on September 14th, we are doing a bonus episode on the short story The Werewolf by Alma Katsu. And thank you to our patrons, Abigail the First, Breaker of Chains, Mother of Dragons, and
Logan,
the Full Metal Patron, and Ben the Fourth,
Patron of Hope.
And thank you to Four Horsemen Comics and Gaming, which you can visit at the Morgantown Mall in Morgantown, West Virginia, or the Mall Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And you can say hello to Ronald III, Grampus of Christmas, who just set up shop. It's a little one-stop shop in the closet in Reagan McNeil's bedroom. The only thing he sells at that location is Casper the Friendly Ghost comics.
I thought you were going to say condoms.
No, it's a Catholic house now. No, it's not. It should be.
It should be.
It should be, but it's not.
That still kind of peeves me. Like, okay, you get to deny it, but I think you should at least send Reagan to church.
Yeah. No. And I don't know if Reagan appears in Legion at all, and I don't remember Exorcist II, The Heretic at all, but I would think that subconsciously, I know she doesn't remember, but subconsciously she has to have like some sort of fond feelings for Catholicism, because you saw like in that last scene, she sees Father Dyer and she sees his collar, and it like inspires her to like give him a kiss on the cheek. So I gotta imagine that there's something, but who knows? We'll see. We've got several more Exorcist episodes to go. So.
Woo! Exorcist-a-thon.
All right. Thank you for rewatching The Exorcist and recording with me, Daniel.
It was a great time.
And thank you to our patrons. Stay tuned for our socials and stay scary.
Stay scary, everybody.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share, and subscribe. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher, and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/the Horror of Babylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that the Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, and all other major podcast apps. Stay scary.